Hey Crimson Pack, welcome back to the channel. My name is Noktulam Selego and thank you so much for tuning in. For those who are recently joined us, welcome to the family. For those who don't know, for those who are clicking on anything related to my channel for the first time, please note that the videos on my channel are written with the assistance of AI, straight from my mind and with the help of AI, so that the English is on point, and also narrated with AI, as English is not my first language. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe.
The collar was the first thing she felt when she woke. It wasn't just a shackle, it was punishment. The silver edges burned against her skin, slick with blood where it had already carved into her throat. Her hands were bound, her ankles shackled. Cold stone cradled her back. The air reeked of iron, sweat, and despair. She blinked through the dim light. A cell. Narrow. Filthy. Just wide enough to pace in, if she weren't bound. Across from her, another cage. Empty. No voices. No guards. Only the distant sound of screaming. She tried to sit up. Pain sang in her spine. She swallowed it. She was a Luna. Or had been. Her name was Arden Lay, but names meant little now. She could still remember the night they took her. The betrayal. The dart in her neck. Her beta's voice whispering, "Forgive me." She hadn't seen him since. The door opened. Two guards stepped inside, one human, the other wolf. The wolf didn't meet her eyes. Coward. Number 12, the human barked. "On your feet." "I'm chained," she growled. "Not for long." He motioned, and the wolf guard stepped forward, unlocking the shackles around her ankles and wrists, but not the collar. Never the collar. "Where am I?" she asked. Neither answered. She didn't resist when they dragged her down the hallway, past dozens of cages. Some were filled with broken shapes, men, women, beasts. Others stared blankly at the wall. One, a fey boy with torn wings, muttered, "Run when you hear the bell. That's when the lights die." She was led into an open chamber, a pit surrounded by high metal walls and tiers of shadowed faces watching above. Spotlights lit the center where blood had already dried. A voice rang out overhead. "Cold. Cultured. Male. Let's see what our Luna is made of." They threw her into the pit. Across from her, another wolf stood. Male. Barefoot, shirtless, scarred. His eyes were yellow and distant, like he wasn't fully present. Collar around his neck. Same as hers. "He'll kill you if you hesitate," a voice whispered from the shadows. "And if he doesn't, the collar will." Arden steadied herself. Her limbs ached, but instinct rose like a fire beneath her skin. The wolf across from her paced in a circle, snarling low, shoulders hunched. The vampire's voice echoed again. "Fight, or die." The other wolf leapt. Arden rolled, barely dodging the first swipe. Claws raked across her shoulder. Pain bloomed. She snarled back, catching his leg with her elbow. He fell, but didn't stay down. He didn't speak. Just lunged again, more beast than man. She didn't want to kill him. But it was clear, he wasn't being given a choice. The collar flared when she tried to hold back. A sharp, burning jolt that buckled her knees. "So that's how it is." She let go. Arden surged forward, grabbing his arm, twisting, and driving her knee into his ribs. Something cracked. He wheezed, but kept swinging. She ducked, grabbed the collar chain, and used it to throw him off balance. He hit the wall with a sickening thud. She stood over him, panting, vision swimming. "End it," the vampire's voice commanded. The wolf groaned beneath her. A flicker of recognition passed through his eyes. He whispered, "Sorry." Arden broke his neck. Silence. Then, applause. The crowd above cheered like animals, drunk on blood. A door opened. Guards pulled her out by the arms. As they dragged her away, she looked back at the body in the pit. She didn't even know his name. The chamber where they brought her next smelled cleaner. White walls. A velvet chair. A desk stacked with parchments and crystal vials. Arden stood in the center, wrists cuffed again, bleeding from her shoulder. She didn't sit. The vampire who ran this place, Lord Valen Dredrick, studied her from behind the desk. Hair black as ink. Skin like porcelain. Eyes a muted red, cool and unreadable. He wore a suit, immaculately tailored, as if he were hosting a business meeting instead of commanding a blood arena. "Do you know why I picked you?" he asked calmly. Arden didn't answer. "You were a Luna. A strong one. Smart. That makes you valuable." He stood, circling her like a wolf circling prey. "You lasted longer than most. Even killed a berserker-class wolf your first round. Do you want me to be grateful?" He smiled slightly. "No. I want you to understand what you are now. You belong to me." She looked him dead in the eyes. "You'll die for this." "Perhaps." He leaned in, fingers brushing her collar. "But not today." She didn't flinch. But she memorized the scent of his skin. The sound of his breath. The faint vibration of magic in the collar when he touched it. Someday, she would tear him apart. Slowly. "I'm assigning you a handler," he said. "A werewolf. One of your own kind. You'll listen to him, or the collar will remind you." She was dragged back to her cell before she could reply. Waiting for her was a wolf with a broken nose and tired eyes. He wore no collar. "Name's Tarn," he said. "I don't care." "You should." He sat outside her bars. "I'm your only shot at staying alive. I already survived." "No," his eyes met hers. "You got lucky. That won't happen twice." Tarn came back the next day with a strip of bandage and a bottle of dark liquid. "Drink it," he said. "What is it?" "Feral suppressant. Keeps the collar from shocking you when your instincts spike." She hesitated. "I didn't lace it," he added, setting it down between the bars. "They'd waste more money putting you down than keeping you useful." She drank. It tasted like ash and copper. But the burning in her throat eased. Tarn leaned back against the opposite wall. "You're going back in the pit tomorrow. Against a shifter who's been here 6 months. He doesn't hesitate." "Neither do I," she said. "You will." He watched her carefully. "Not because you're weak. Because you're still trying to figure out who to be in here. You'll think about mercy. About honor. And it'll get you gutted. I didn't ask for your advice." "No, but I'm giving it anyway." He stood. "You want to survive long enough to tear this place down, start acting like it." Her eyes narrowed. "What do you know about tearing it down?" Tarn's voice went quiet. "More than you think." He left without another word. That night, Arden sat in her cell, listening to the sobbing of a young girl 2 cages down. A human, from the sound of it. Maybe no older than 16. "Hey," Arden said softly. No answer. "What's your name?" "Mira." "You fight tomorrow?" A whimper. "They said I'll be bait. For a vamp who likes them young." Arden gritted her teeth. "Hold on. Just until tomorrow." "Why?" "Because things break. Even empires." Silence. Then, a whisper, "You really think so?" Arden didn't answer. She let her silence be a promise. They didn't feed her. They gave her water, but nothing to dull the edge of hunger. Tarn returned once before the fight, handed her a strip of cloth soaked in oil. "Why?" "Burn it in the pit. Distracts the blood drinkers." He hesitated. Don't get attached to anyone. I wasn't planning to. They'll try to make you kill a friend. Or a pup. Or someone who begs. That's how they keep you obedient. She took the cloth. They don't know me. No. But they will. The next fight came quicker. This time, she was pushed into a larger arena, circular, metal fenced, surrounded by a drunk and howling crowd. On the opposite end, a wolf she knew. Rek. Her old ally. Once her lead scout. They had hunted together. Fought beside one another. His collar glowed red. Eyes blank. He looked at her, and didn't recognize her. She whispered, Rek. The collar shocked her. Hard. She staggered. He charged. This was what Tarn meant. Arden dodged, but not fast enough. Claws slashed her ribs. She screamed, fell, rolled, then rose again. The crowd chanted, Kill. 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 She threw the cloth to the ground. Lit it with the match they'd hidden in her boot sole. The flames distracted Rek just long enough for her to circle behind him, leap onto his back, and lock her arms around his throat. He bucked, thrashed. I'm sorry, she whispered. She choked him until he passed out. The collar flared, punishment for disobedience. For not killing. She collapsed, convulsing from the pain. But she didn't kill him. The guards dragged her back to her cell in silence. And that night, for the first time, Mira whispered, You made them angry. Arden smiled through bloodied lips. Good. The collar cracked during her third match. Not shattered, but cracked. The moment it happened, the air changed. Arden was fighting a vampire-born half-blood, faster than anything she'd ever faced. She was bleeding from a gash across her ribs, her body refusing to shift from the forced suppressant in her bloodstream. The half-blood smiled with razor teeth and whispered, You've already lost. She ducked low, letting his claws graze her shoulder, and slammed her forehead into his nose. He staggered, momentarily stunned. That's when she twisted the chain of her own collar around his arm and yanked, forcing the sharp metal edges to dig into his flesh. He screamed. She pulled harder, using her own collar like a weapon. Something sparked. Magic cracked. The collar hissed with white light, and a fracture appeared just above the left clasp. It stung her worse than anything she'd felt. But the pain was different. Weaker. Off balance. She kicked the half-blood into the iron bars of the arena and waited for the shock from the collar. Nothing came. Not even a spark. She stared at it, panting. It wasn't broken completely. But something inside had faltered. The crowd above roared, thinking it was victory. Arden didn't care. She wasn't fighting for them. Not anymore. She was fighting to remember who she was. Later, in the cell, Tarn crouched outside the bars, watching her. You lived. I always do. He tossed her a strip of dried meat. How's the collar? Cracked. His eyes flicked to her neck. They'll notice. Let them. Tarn leaned in, lowering his voice. You keep playing like this, they'll send you to the branding ceremony. What is it? He hesitated. Public fight. Against a chained alpha. Survive it, and you get branded as a permanent fixture. You fight for them. Represent their empire. I thought I already did. No, he said. Right now you're still expendable. After the brand, you're theirs. Forever. She met his eyes. Then I'll break the brand the way I'll break this collar. Tarn didn't smile, but his voice softened. That's what they all say. Right before they burn. They made her kill again. This time, it wasn't a monster. It was a girl. Barely grown. Eyes sunken. Arms too thin. Mira. She was thrown into the pit without warning. Arden froze as soon as she saw her. Mira stood trembling in the middle of the arena, wearing a ragged shirt and no shoes. Her collar blinked red. "No," Arden whispered. The crowd booed. Above them, Lord Valen stood on his balcony, hands clasped behind his back. His voice echoed down. "You want to be free, Luna? Then act like the beast they claimed you were." Myra's lips trembled. "They said I had to fight." "You're not fighting me," Arden said. "You're surviving." "I can't shift." "I know. They said if I don't fight, they'll kill the others." Arden's heart went cold. "What others?" "The children," Mira whispered. "From the human camps. They keep them below. They showed me." Arden looked up at Valen. "You bastard." The vampire's lips curled. "Choose, Luna. Her or them." Mira took one step toward her, fists trembling. Arden didn't move. "Do it," she said softly. Mira hesitated. "I don't want to." "Then don't." "But." Arden turned her back on the girl and looked up at the vampire. "Kill them. All of them. Burn your leverage. But I won't touch her." Valen's eyes narrowed. The collar flared. Arden dropped to her knees, convulsing. Mira screamed. The crowd roared for blood. Through the haze, Arden saw Tarn in the crowd. He wasn't cheering. He wasn't watching either. He was walking away. He knew what was about to happen. But Mira moved. Not toward Arden, but toward the edge of the pit. She turned to the vampire and screamed, "I won't be your monster." And then she ran. Straight into the electric fence surrounding the pit. The shock lifted her off her feet. She hit the ground with a sickening thud. Arden screamed her name, but it was too late. Myra's body didn't move again. Silence fell. Even the crowd went quiet. Arden knelt there, breathing hard, tasting blood. Valen spoke coldly. "Clean up the mess." Then he walked away. The ceremony came 2 days later. Arden said nothing when they dragged her from the cell. Her cracked collar had been reinforced with an iron bar, fused at the edges, glowing faintly red. Tarn didn't meet her eyes as she passed. The arena this time was different. Larger. Polished. Lined with nobles and powerful guests. The scent of perfume mingled with blood. A platform stood in the center with silver stakes. Arden was thrown into a ring lit by torches. Across from her stood her opponent, a massive wolf in partial shift, fangs too large for his mouth, eyes rimmed with black veins. His name was Kale. She heard it whispered by one of the handlers. He had once been an alpha. Chained for rebellion. Broken until all he knew was killing. He was nearly 8 feet tall. Scarred. Muscles like iron ropes. And he was not entirely sane. The collar on him blinked blue, the highest level of control. He lunged before the announcer even finished the introduction. Arden rolled under the swing of his claws, came up behind him, slammed her foot into his spine. He didn't even flinch. He grabbed her by the throat and hurled her across the ring. She hit the stone hard. Blood in her mouth. Shoulder dislocated. He charged again. She ran this time, dodging, weaving, dragging her chain across the floor to trip him. Didn't work. He caught her again, this time by the leg, and swung her like a rag doll. Her back cracked against the iron stake. Vision blurred. Breath ragged. She couldn't win this with strength. Think, Arden. Think. She looked at his collar. The blue pulse. The thin scar along his temple, surgical. She remembered something Tarn had once said. They'll try to make you fight something that doesn't feel pain. The trick is finding what it remembers. She grabbed her chain, wrapped it around her fists, and shouted, "Kale." His head jerked slightly. She screamed it again. "Kale, wake up." He paused. Just for a second. She charged, not at him, but at his collar. She grabbed the edge, jammed her chain under it, and twisted. The device sparked. Kale howled. Not in rage, but in agony. His knees buckled. She slammed her fist into his temple. Once. Twice. The light in his collar dimmed. He looked at her, really looked, for the first time. A flicker of memory in his eyes. "I'm sorry," he rasped. She didn't answer. She drove her fist through his chest. When it was over, the nobles clapped. Lord Valen stepped into the ring, smiling faintly. "You've earned your place." He took a red-hot brand from the nearest handler. Arden didn't move. He pressed the mark just beneath her collarbone. The pain was blinding. But she didn't scream. She was a fixture now. Famous. Feared. The Luna who killed an alpha. They gave her new clothes, black leather, silver studs. The branding mark glowed faintly under her skin. Her meals came twice a day. Her cell was cleaned. Her chain was longer. But she was still caged. Tarn returned a few days after the ceremony. He didn't speak at first. Just stood outside the bars, watching her. "I told you not to get attached." She looked up, hollow-eyed. "I didn't." She died for herself. She died because of him. Tarn's voice was low. "I knew Myra's mother. She was a fighter. Rebel faction." "You're with them?" Arden asked. "I was. Before they found me. Before the collar." He sat. His wrists bore faint scars, older, deeper. "Why are you still here?" she asked. "Because I know how it works. How it all connects. The arenas. The cities. The trade lines. I've been gathering names." "For what?" He looked her in the eyes. "For when the right wolf wakes up." They sat in silence. Finally, he said, "There's a tunnel. Runs under the east wing. It's old, forgotten. I helped dig it years ago." "Where does it lead?" "Outside." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're not like the others. You don't kill for them. You kill around them." She clenched her jaw. "What about the children?" "There's a cell block beneath the eastern arena. Mostly human. Some shifter pups. You'll need help to get there." "I'll get there." Tarn stood. "I'll leave the gate open tomorrow. After your next fight. You'll have 15 minutes. And you?" "I've got my own route." "You sure you'll make it?" He smiled faintly. "I'm not planning to." The fight was brutal. Two vampires. Trained. Fast. Coordinated. She let them corner her. Let them think she was done. Then she ripped one's throat open and jammed his corpse into the second, using it like a shield. The second tried to flee. She didn't let him. The moment the gate opened, she ran. Not back to her cell, but east. Down the corridor, past the handler stations. Her body screamed in protest. Her shoulder hadn't healed right. Her ribs throbbed. But she didn't stop. She found the tunnel exactly where Tarn said. A grate. Slightly ajar. Inside, it was narrow. Cold. Wet. She crawled for what felt like miles. Came up into a stone hall. Ancient. Crumbling. And at the end of it, cells. Small ones. She heard the sobbing before she saw the bars. There were 5 children. 2 boys. 3 girls. Filthy. Starving. They shrank back when she approached. "It's okay," she whispered. "I'm here to get you out." One boy stepped forward. Brown eyes. Sharp jaw. "They said someone would come." "Who?" "An old wolf. Said the Luna would remember." She swallowed hard. "Tarn." The boy nodded. "He's dead now. They killed him. Right after the match." Arden closed her eyes. Grief hit fast, but she buried it. She looked at the children. "We move now." They followed her. Up the tunnel. Through the dark. And when they emerged, she felt it. Air. Real air. Cold. Night wind. Moonlight. For the first time in months, she was outside the arena. She was free. But she didn't run. She looked back at the fortress behind her. And swore it would burn. Arden didn't stop running until her lungs burned. The children clung close, barefoot and shaking, their eyes constantly flicking to the shadows as if Valen's claws might reach from the trees and drag them back underground. They crossed into a thin forest, moonlight streaking through tall, skeletal trees. No pack scent. No traps. No wards. Just freedom, tainted by the knowledge that it wouldn't last long. "We need shelter," Arden said, glancing behind them. "Somewhere with cover. A cave, even a burrow." "There's a hunter's cabin nearby," one of the girls whispered. Her name was Nella, the oldest of the group. "My mother took me there once. It's abandoned. They never patrol that far." "How far?" "An hour, maybe 2. We walk fast." They did. But halfway there, Arden sensed them. Footsteps. Wrong rhythm. Not animal. Not human. Vampiric. "Hide," she snapped. "Now." Under the roots. The children scrambled beneath a gnarled tree's base, curling into silence. Arden stood in the clearing alone, scenting the air. Too late. A figure stepped into the moonlight. Cloaked. Pale. Golden eyes. Not Valen. But she knew this one. Silas Arwen. Valen's enforcer. A vampire lieutenant known for hunting runaways and making examples. "Well," he said smoothly, "the Luna lives. I lost money betting on your death." Arden said nothing. He sighed. "You could have been a symbol, you know. Your image, your strength. All of it sold well." "You can still sell my corpse," she said. "If you earn it." Silas laughed. Still defiant. But tired. He moved faster than sound. But Arden had expected it. She rolled sideways, drawing the silver knife she'd taken from the last handler she killed. It wasn't much, but it burned deep when she drove it into Silas' thigh. He screamed, then backhanded her into a tree. Pain splintered through her ribs. "You want blood?" she spat, rising. "Then bleed for it." He lunged again. She dropped, swept his legs, and kicked him in the chest. He staggered. Arden leapt for his throat, but he caught her midair and slammed her into the ground. "You'll wish you'd died in the pit," he growled. Before he could strike again, a sharp whistle pierced the air. A second figure stepped out of the trees. A tall man with a silver-lined crossbow aimed at Silas's head. "Let her go," he said. "Now." Silas hissed, retreating. The newcomer fired. The bolt struck Silas's shoulder and ignited instantly, sun steel. The vampire fled into the woods, screaming. Arden groaned, pushing herself up. The man approached and offered her a hand. "You Arden Lay." She hesitated. "Who's asking?" "Name's Colt Marin. I work with the Free Claw Alliance." Tarn told us to watch for you. Her breath caught. He made it. Colt's face fell. No. He made sure you did. Colt led them to the hunter's cabin, low stone walls, half-collapsed roof, but intact enough to shield from wind. The children ate in silence, curled together by the fire. Arden sat with Colt outside, keeping watch. He said you'd find us, she murmured, eyes distant. Tarn sent word before the branding match. Said if you got out, I'd know. He left a mark near the tunnel mouth. Only rebel eyes would notice. He knew he wouldn't survive. Didn't intend to, Colt said quietly. He called it his trade. The fire popped between them. He was tired, Arden said after a while. But not broken. No. Just done watching. That's different. She nodded slowly. Colt studied her. You plan to keep running? No, her voice sharpened. I plan to make Valen choke on every collar he's ever locked. One by one. Colt gave a short laugh. Good. Because we've been planning something similar. He pulled a rough map from his coat. Valen doesn't just own one ring. He leases them. 5 major sites, each specializing in different species. We've got names, locations, blueprints. What we don't have is a symbol. He met her eyes. Exactly. Arden stood, running her fingers over the scar of her brand. Then I'll give you one. He nodded. We move at dawn. She looked back at the children. They're not fighters. Then we find them sanctuary. Somewhere safe, she murmured. Only place like that left is the Hollow Grove pack. She froze. They don't take outsiders. They will for you. Or they'll answer to me. They reached Hollow Grove by dusk the next day. The border was thick with mist and magic, old druidic wards mixed with wolf scent. Arden felt them pulse against her skin, trying to read her intent. Step back, Colt warned. They don't like strangers crossing uninvited. A howl broke through the trees. Then 3 wolves emerged, 2 in partial shift, 1 in full beast form. The tallest among them shifted into a man mid-step. Blonde hair. Angular face. Cold green eyes. Alpha Rennick Voss. You've got some nerve, he said, looking directly at Arden. She stepped forward. I need sanctuary for 5 children. Nothing else. Those kids are barely pack, he growled. If that. They were prisoners in a collar ring. And now they're your problem. Not mine. Colt stepped up. We're not asking for adoption. Just safe ground. Food. Shelter. Rennick narrowed his eyes. You're free claw. Still breathing. Want to keep it that way. Rennick ignored him. You used to be a Luna. Arden didn't flinch. Not anymore. Good. That means I don't have to treat you with respect. She met his stare. I don't want your respect. Just your silence. Tension crackled in the air. Then a smaller figure stepped forward, Beta Lena, Rennick's second. Pale skin, sharp features, softer voice. They can stay, Lena said quietly. You owe me that, Rennick. You owe all of us. The alpha growled low, but turned away. Fine. 2 days. Then they're gone. As the children were led inside, Arden remained at the edge of the border. Colt raised a brow. You're not going with them. I don't belong behind walls, she said. Not anymore. He nodded. Then where to? She looked at the map. Her fingers tapped one spot. Blood Dusk Arena. The smallest one, she murmured. Let's see if they bleed first. Blood Dusk Arena stood hidden in the ravines of a dried river valley. Smaller than the underground fortress she'd escaped, but no less cruel. The scent of death clung to the rocks. Arden approached as a traitor, cloaked, collared, dragging a chain behind her. Colt posed as her handler. The guards at the outer ring waved them through without care. Their kind wasn't rare. Inside, the fighters were held in rusted cages stacked 2 levels high. Most were wolves. Some fae. A few witches. Arden's jaw clenched at the sight. She spotted an old man curled in the back of one cage, gaunt, his eyes dulled by years of captivity. Arden knelt beside the bars. "Name?" she whispered. He looked up slowly. "Gale. Used to run with the Broken Ridge pack. Can you still shift?" He laughed bitterly. "I haven't shifted in 4 years. Don't even know if the wolf's still in there." She gripped the bars. "Do you want revenge?" His eyes sharpened. "Yes." Then she handed him a knife. Colt moved fast from the other side, cutting alarms, blocking the main exit. Arden unlocked cages with the stolen handler's key, barking instructions. "Don't run. Fight. Burn this place." The guards tried to respond, but the fighters were ready. Desperate. Starving. Vicious. Within minutes, the arena turned into a slaughterhouse. Blood on stone. Smoke rising. The crowd trapped inside the viewing stands as fire spread. Arden found the arena master, a portly vampire with gold rings, and drove her blade into his mouth before he could speak. When it was done, Gale limped out of the burning compound with smoke in his beard and fire in his eyes. "They'll remember your name," he told her. Arden wiped blood from her face. "They'll remember ours." The wind howled over the valley as Arden stood at the cliff's edge, watching the flames consume Blood Dusk Arena. The scent of burning flesh didn't sicken her, it steadied her. This was justice. The kind no court could ever give. Colt approached, boots crunching over scorched dirt. "That's one down. 4 to go." He passed her a flask. "You slept at all?" She shook her head. He hesitated. "You're doing it." "No," she said quietly. "Not yet." She stared out at the dark horizon. "Valen hasn't noticed yet. He's too arrogant. Too far removed. He thinks I'm dead or hiding." Colt glanced behind them. "You planning to let him keep thinking that?" "Until I'm at his gate." He nodded slowly. They began walking back toward the forest, toward the next step. But someone was already watching them. From the branches of a twisted tree, a figure crouched. Hooded. Cloaked in shadow. Not vampire. Not wolf. Something else. Eyes glowing violet. Faintly inhuman. They whispered to the wind, "She's moving too fast." Another voice, older, deeper, replied from the shadows. "Then she'll burn too bright." The first figure smiled. "Let her." The forest east of Blood Dusk burned low for 3 days before the smoke finally cleared. By then, Arden had already vanished. Colt led her through the ravine paths, cutting south toward the next target, Thornfell, a production site known for manufacturing control collars. But as they reached the edge of a ruined shrine deep in the wildwood, Arden stopped abruptly. They weren't alone. "You feel that?" she asked. Colt nodded. "Someone's watching." She turned, catching the glint of violet eyes high in the trees. "Show yourself," Arden said. Silence. Then a voice, a soft whisper from the canopy. "You move like prey." A shape dropped from the branches. Slim. Cloaked. Inhuman. They wore bone armor stitched with shadows, and when they pulled their hood back, Arden saw skin that shimmered like moonlit bark and eyes like dying stars. "Fae," Colt muttered. "But not High Court. You're wild born." The figure didn't answer. Instead, they crouched before Arden and studied her. You broke one of Valen's arenas. I did more than that, Arden said coldly. The Fae smiled. We saw. The forest saw. The dead sang. Arden narrowed her eyes. Why are you following me? To see if the Luna burns like they say. I don't wear that title anymore. Exactly, the Fae said. Colt stepped forward. Enough riddles. What do you want? The Fae looked at him with a slow blink. You want to burn the Collar Empire. We want the same. Arden crossed her arms. Then why watch instead of help? Because we serve the old pact. We don't interfere. But we guide those who do. You offering guidance. The Fae touched Arden's collar scar with a finger that felt like ice. You're more than wolf now. The collar didn't just bind you, it altered something. When it cracked, something inside you cracked too. Get to the point. There's a witch in Thornfell. Her name is Alara. She built the core magic behind the collars. She'll be your next gate. Colt stiffened. She's loyal to Valen. Not anymore, the Fae whispered. She just doesn't know it yet. And then the Fae turned and vanished into the trees like smoke in wind. Thornfell was nothing like the blood arenas. It was colder, clinical. A walled compound built from black iron and warded stone, hidden inside a snowy basin. This was no prison. It was a workshop. And every sound inside echoed with precision and cruelty. Arden watched from a ridge above. Too many guards to sneak in, Colt muttered. And if we go loud, they'll torch the place before we get anything. Arden's eyes narrowed. Then we go smart. They waited until the night shift changed, just long enough for shadows to settle. Colt approached from the west wall, drawing the patrol's attention with a clumsy scuffle and an intentionally thrown firebomb. Arden used the chaos to slip through the eastern fence, crawling under wards laced with salt and silver. Her skin blistered where it touched, but she made it inside. She passed rows of stone rooms. Machines. Tables with glowing runes and cages of enchanted metals. And finally, she found the witch. Alara stood alone in a chamber lined with books and arcane sigils. She was young, no more than 30, but her eyes were weary and her wrists scarred from her own cuffs. She didn't flinch when Arden stepped into the room with a blade. If you're here to kill me, she said, do it fast. I'm not here for your life. Then what? Arden showed her the collar. The cracked one. Alara stepped closer, touching it with something like reverence. You're the one from cell 12. You know me. I built your collar. Arden's lip curled. I didn't do it because I wanted to, Alara said quickly. I was bound. Blood oath to Valen's line. I designed the soul lock enchantment. Not the pain trigger. I need it reversed. You can't. Not entirely. Then teach me how to break it. Alara paused. I'll need time. And I'll need your blood. Arden held out her hand. You trust me? The witch asked. No. But I'm done waiting for war to come to me. They cut the oath that night. Blood spilled into runes. Words were whispered in the old tongue. Arden gave her real name, not the one Valen branded her with. When it was over, Alara swayed and sat heavily on the floor. You're marked now, she said. They'll feel you coming. Arden stared out the window. Good. Alara joined them. She left Thornfell burning, her grimoire tucked under one arm and smoke curling around her hair like a crown. Colt met them in the hills outside the basin. He said nothing at first, just looked at the witch with suspicion. She's with us, Arden said. For now, Alara added. I'm not bleeding for wolves. I'm burning Valen for my own reasons. Fine, Colt muttered. So what's the plan? Ilara laid a map across the rock. This, she said, is Valen's empire. 5 rings. 1 destroyed. 1 collar site burned. That left Bone Cradle, Iron Maw, and Crimson Hunt, the 3 largest remaining. Bone Cradle specialized in forced transformations, where shifters were tortured into instability. Iron Maw focused on hybrids. Crimson Hunt, the worst of all, trained elites to become entertainment, fighters dressed up for nobles to play with. We strike Bone Cradle next, Arden said. Ilara nodded. You'll need a way in. They scan for bloodline and scent. Every fighter is chipped. Then we find someone they chipped. Colt raised an eyebrow. You mean alive? Arden nodded. I know a name. They found him rotting in a fishing village along the coast. Kalis had once been a royal shifter from the Eastern Isles, captured, chipped, and used in Bone Cradle before he escaped 5 years ago. Arden remembered the rumors. A feral who ripped open 3 guards and vanished into the ocean. Now, he was a drunk, half-limping through life in a fog of shame. You want revenge? Arden asked him. He snorted. What I want is a bottle that doesn't run out. Colt leaned against the doorframe. We're offering more than a bottle. Kalis's eyes sharpened. I heard what you did to Blood Dusk. That was you? It was us. He chuckled. They won't fall so easily. Then we make them. He stared at Arden a long time. Fine. But I'm not going in clean. None of us are. They returned to Bone Cradle 2 nights later, Kalis acting as a captured rogue, Arden and Colt as enforcers. Inside, the place reeked of formaldehyde and old terror. The cages were clean, but soulless. Everything smelled like bleach and submission. Kalis whispered, the main supply node is underground. Power runs through the lab tunnels. Arden nodded. We take the generators. Kill the lights. Free the hybrids. Colt passed out stolen weapons, simple, fast, deadly. Arden took a blade she'd carved herself. Silver at the tip. Her initials branded into the hilt. Then they moved. By the time alarms blared, half the guards were already dead. Kalis led the hybrids, mutants and rejects, into open rebellion. And Arden found the warden. A vampire noble named Lethos. She didn't let him talk. She just carved the brand off his neck and shoved it down his throat. Bone Cradle fell in flames. Ilara studied the remains of Bone Cradle in the morning. These aren't just collars, she said, prying apart a chip. They're seeds. Feeding back information to the heart of the Empire. Which is where? Arden asked. Black Spire, Colt answered. The central seat. No one gets in there, Ilara added. Not without an army. Arden stared at the ruined collar. Then we build one. Colt laughed darkly. With what? Traumatized wolves and angry half-beasts. With the broken, Arden said. The ones they thought wouldn't rise again. Kalis joined them by the edge of the fire, dragging the corpse of a handler behind him. We got a problem, he said. This one had a message stone. They know we're coming. And they're calling in the Thorn Guard. Colt's expression darkened. Valen's elite. They hunt rebellions, Kalis said. They're not just enforcers. They kill everything. No prisoners. Arden looked at the flames. Then we don't give them a rebellion. What do we give them? Ilara asked. Arden's eyes gleamed. A war. The first one arrived at dusk. They didn't ride in on horses or glide in on wind. They appeared. One moment, the road near the ruins of Bone Cradle was empty. The next, he was there, tall, silver-haired, cloaked in violet steel and darkness. Thalen, captain of the Thorn Guard. He wore no insignia, but his presence alone warped the air. They sent him, Elara said, watching from the ridge with the spyglass. They're not playing anymore. Kalis paced behind her, tense. He's the one who burned my village. Turned my sister into a tracker. She hasn't spoken a word since. Colt joined them. If he's here, the others are close. They don't move separately. Then we don't stay put, Arden said, tightening the strap on her blade. We run? Kalis asked. No. We scatter. They expect an army. We give them smoke. Colt nodded slowly. Cells. Guerrilla strikes. Split them apart before they regroup. Elara traced something in the dirt with her boot. We bait him. Thalen needs to believe you're still weak. That you're surviving, not fighting. Arden's eyes narrowed. So I act broken again? No, Elara said. You act like prey. Right until you tear his throat out. Thalen moved through the region like a phantom. Wherever he walked, silence followed. No blood. No wreckage. Just absence. Entire outposts disappeared. Rebellion camps wiped out with surgical precision. But Arden didn't give him a camp. She gave him whispers. Colt traveled east, spreading false intelligence, movement near Iron Maw, new uprisings, escaped hybrids. Kalis and Elara worked from a hidden forge, crafting illusions and traps using the broken collar cores. Arden, meanwhile, left traces of herself. Not full trails, just enough to draw attention. Scraps of her scent. Symbols carved into trees. A fawn left on a broken collar. And then she waited in the ruins of an old hunting lodge, alone, hidden in the snow. When Thalen came, he didn't knock. The door creaked open, and the cold followed him in. You've been busy, he said quietly. Arden didn't speak. She just watched him from the shadows. I watched your fights. You were always feral. Undisciplined. He stepped deeper inside. His boots made no sound. But I admired it. The rage. The defiance. I almost took you for myself. But Valen had plans. Arden still didn't move. I've been ordered to kill you. He drew his blade. It sang like silver. And I will. But I wanted to see if the fire still burns. Arden struck first. Steel met steel. Her blade hissed against his in a blur of silver and fury. He was faster, but she was wilder. She moved like someone with nothing left to lose. The fight tore the lodge apart. Walls cracked. Floor splintered. Magic hissed through the seams as Elara's planted sigils activated. Arden stabbed him once, in the side. Not deep. Not fatal. But enough to bleed him. He retreated, smirking. Well then, he said, touching his wound. Perhaps you are worth the hunt after all. And then he vanished in a flash of violet smoke. Thalen's retreat didn't go unnoticed. He left behind a scent of pride, and fury. Kalis grinned when he heard. You wounded him. Barely, Arden said, brushing snow from her jacket. He'll be back. Good, Elara muttered, flipping through her spellbook. Let him. I've been working on something unpleasant. They had set up a temporary hideout in the ruins of a rail station south of Iron Maw. No roof, but deep tunnels below. A place Valen's scouts had long abandoned. Colt returned 3 days later with news. They've started mobilizing Crimson Hunt. Arden's brow furrowed. Why? They don't deploy unless nobles are involved. They are, Colt said. The collars weren't just control tools. They're a commodity. A blood trade. Elara froze. You mean, the magic inside the collars is being harvested, Colt finished. Stored. Sold. Nobles use them to extend life. Enhance senses. Feed forbidden rituals. Elara turned pale. That's why the enchantments needed live wolves. Kalas slammed his fist into the wall. They weren't just breaking us. They were bottling us. Arden stepped forward. Then we break the buyers. Colt looked up. Crimson Hunt has a shipment leaving in 4 days. South border. Protected by a full caravan and elite guards. Then that's where we strike next. The ambush was simple. Elara cloaked their presence with layered wards. Colt took point, tracking the caravan's advance with stolen scouts. Kalas handled demolition, planting charges along the snow trail. Arden led the strike team. 6 rebels. 2 hybrids. 1 witch. The caravan rolled through the pass like royalty, 6 carts, each drawn by enchanted beasts, protected by thorn guard lieutenants and crimson-armored nobles. Arden waited until they entered the dead zone, no trees, no cover. Then she gave the signal. The explosion lit the dusk sky like fire. Wagons burst open. Screams echoed. Collars spilled from broken crates, still glowing faintly with trapped enchantments. Arden dove straight into the heart of chaos. She tore through the first guard with a blade to the neck, spun, and drove her boot into another's ribs. Colt flanked left, firing bolts of silver from a stolen crossbow. Kalas and 2 hybrids howled from the ridge, descending with claws out. The nobles tried to run. One didn't make it. Arden caught her by the throat. "You like the taste of magic," she snarled. "Then choke on it." She forced a cracked collar into the woman's mouth and twisted it until it shattered. Blood misted the snow. Elara shouted from the cliff above. "More coming. Reinforcements, 5 riders." Colt pulled Arden back. "Time to vanish." They didn't retreat. They scattered, as planned. Within minutes, all that remained of the caravan was ash, blood, and broken crates of failed collars. By the time Valen's forces arrived at the site, it was too late. They found no rebels. Only collars burned beyond use, and noble blood staining the ice. The message was clear. Arden regrouped with her team in a cave mouth near the Red Vein ravine. Everyone was scraped, bruised, exhausted, but alive. "We took their trade," Colt said. "That'll sting." Kalas held up a salvaged manifest scroll. "It's worse than we thought. These weren't just enchanted. They were coded. Each collar was linked to a blood sigil. The magic runs deeper. Older." Elara studied it carefully. This is ancient craft. Pre-Empire. Someone gave Valen this power. Or sold it to him. Arden leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "We need to find who." "You think there's someone behind him?" Colt asked. "There always is," Arden said. "Empires are built on bargains." Elara looked up from the scroll, a strange light in her eyes. "Then we find the first deal. And break it." Kalas snorted. "You mean go deeper than the collars?" Arden smiled faintly. "We're not just burning the Empire anymore." She looked at each of them, fire returning to her voice. "We're unmaking the throne itself." The scroll Kalas recovered was older than any of them thought. Arden stared at it beneath the torchlight, the ink shimmering faintly with blood magic, written in overlapping languages, one of them not even Elara could name. They sat deep in the Raven Root Caves, a temporary hideout chiseled into black stone and forgotten by most. The kind of place old spirits clung to like smoke. "This symbol here," Elara said, pointing, "is not just a crest. It's a seal. It means bound by a cord. The collars were created under a pact." Arden leaned closer. "Between who?" Elara hesitated. "Valen, and someone older. Someone not bound to this continent. This is not vampire magic. Not entirely. Kalis crossed his arms. Demons? No, Elara whispered. Witches. Not like me. Primal witches. Dead things pretending to be gods. Colt rubbed the back of his neck. What does that mean for us? It means this empire was built on a stolen covenant, Elara replied. And if we can find the original altar, the root of the pact, we can unbind it. Where's the altar? Elara slowly spread a second scroll. A map, half-burned, marked with bleeding ink and two names. One was familiar, Hollow Vale. The other was not. Eldrin Hollow. Colt frowned. That place doesn't exist anymore. It burned with the first purge. Before Valen even took the throne. Elara smiled grimly. Then we dig it up. Valen hadn't returned to Valen's court since his wound. He sat in a ruined temple far from the main roads, shirtless, the scar along his rib still raw from Arden's blade. The scent of her blood still lived in his memory, like wildfire and old snow. A voice cut through the quiet. You bled, Captain. That's rare. He didn't turn. What do you want, Malin? The speaker stepped into view, Malin, one of the Crimson Hunt's remaining warpriests. His face was tattooed with crimson runes, and his teeth were filed to points. I came to offer something. Since your little campaign failed. Thalen looked up slowly. I want her dead. I don't care how. Malin smiled thinly. Then let me use the hounds. Thalen's jaw clenched. They're unstable. They're not controlled. They don't need control. Just scent and blood. Thalen thought of Arden's eyes. How she hadn't run. How she had fought. She's becoming a symbol, he muttered. She's a problem, Malin said. Let me erase her. Thalen stood. No. Not yet. You protecting her now? Malin asked, amused. Thalen didn't answer. But deep in his gut, something had changed. The wound hadn't healed because he didn't want it to. She had marked him. Not as prey, but as a challenge. He had only ever obeyed Valen. But for the first time, he considered defying him. Hollowvale was quiet. Too quiet. Colt scouted ahead while Arden and Elara followed. The ruins were half swallowed by trees, the shrine little more than a crumbled ring of stone hidden under roots and moss. This is it, Elara whispered. I can feel the pact buried beneath it. Arden knelt, running her fingers over a strange black vine wrapped around the old stones. It twitched under her touch. What is it? Flesh root, Elara said. It feeds on old magic. We need to burn it. Kalis arrived with torches, tossing one down. The fire hissed and cracked as the vines recoiled, but something else began to wake. A scream echoed from deep underground. Not human. Not wolf. Brace yourselves, Arden warned. From beneath the shrine, the ground split, and something clawed its way up. A corpse, but alive. Half rotted, half fused with collar metal, eyes glowing red. Elara gasped. One of the first bound. Colt shot it clean through the head. It didn't fall. Kalis charged in with his axe, hacking limbs until they scattered across the stone. Only Arden moved for the heart, driving her blade into the creature's spine, snapping the collar core embedded in its chest. The corpse stilled. Elara dropped to her knees. It was guarding the pact seal. Beneath the broken stones lay a mirror of blood crystal, pulsing faintly. Arden leaned in. And saw something move inside it. A face. Valen's. You found it, his voice echoed from the depths. But you'll die here. The mirror cracked. They ran. The shrine collapsed behind them as the mirror shattered. Fire and black mist poured out of the broken altar, and from within it, voices rose, chanting, screaming, laughing. Colt dragged Alara from the edge of the crater. Kalis hauled Arden back when she tried to go after the fragments. "We need to move." But Arden stared into the fog. He saw us. He was watching. Through the seal, Alara panted. "He's linked to it. He feeds from it." "Then breaking it didn't hurt him," Kalis said. "No," Alara said grimly. "It woke him." They rode hard through the forest, back to Raven Root, only to find part of the cave system already collapsed. Smoke hung in the air. Blood marked the walls. Kalis searched the bodies. 2 of ours. Dead. Colt found claw marks in the stone. "Not vampires. Not wolves. Hounds," Arden muttered. Alara trembled. "Malin must have unleashed them." "We're running out of time," Colt said. "And ground." Arden gritted her teeth. "Then we take the fight into their ground." Alara raised an eyebrow. "You're not suggesting." "I am," Arden snapped. "We go to Blood Throne. We bring this war to Valen's doorstep." Kalis gave a grim nod. "Then we die loud." "No," Arden said, eyes burning. "We live louder." The plan was suicide. But rebellion always was. Colt and Kalis took the western path, sabotaging supply lines and intercepting courier ravens to delay reinforcements. Alara worked underground, creating illusion veils that would shield their approach to the outer city. And Arden? She went alone. Through the old smuggler's tunnels beneath the ridge spine. Through forgotten crypts and venomous fog. Straight into the lower veins of Blood Throne. It was a kingdom of black marble and crimson flame. Built into the mountain like a fang sunk into the world's throat. She made it as far as the Calarium, the massive inner chamber where the collars were forged. It stank of iron, pain, and burned hair. Arden counted over 200 workers, most enslaved hybrids. Some barely alive. She didn't wait. She struck fast, slashing ropes, breaking control pillars, shoving collar cores into overloaded reactors. The chamber exploded into chaos. Alarms screamed. Blood ran. Smoke curled. Arden sprinted through the mayhem, grabbing 2 prisoners on her way out. "Come on. We're not dying in chains." They escaped through a broken air duct, scaling up into the old ventilation shafts. Behind her, the Calarium cracked open like a rotten tooth. One of the prisoners, a younger she-wolf named Rael, coughed blood but grinned. "You're her. The one who broke the ring." Arden didn't answer. But as they emerged into the cold night air, she looked toward the spires of Blood Throne. And whispered, "First spike driven." Blood Throne burned, just not fast enough. Arden crouched behind the edge of a crumbling watchtower as searchlights swept over the outer districts. Sirens howled. More patrols poured into the Calarium wreckage. She'd lit the fire. Now came the backlash. 3 more patrols coming from the south, said Rael, her voice hushed. The young she-wolf had proven herself sharp-eyed and braver than her scars. Arden nodded. "We'll wait until they pass. Then we strike the relay." Rael glanced nervously toward the tower housing the city's eastern communication node. "We disable that, we cut off half their command net. That's the point." Behind them, the second prisoner Arden had rescued, an old hybrid named Rusk, coughed into a blood-soaked rag. He'd been wounded during their escape from the Calarium, and every breath now sounded like it hurt. "You sure about this?" he rasped. "Because once we hit that relay, there's no hiding. You'll bring Valen's entire inner guard." "I'm not here to hide," Arden said coldly. "I'm here to collapse him." They moved under shadow, slipping through smoke and ruin, until they reached the perimeter wall of the relay tower. Arden scaled it first, disabling the outer sirens while Rael followed. Inside, vampire engineers barked orders, unaware of what was coming. Arden slid in behind one, snapped his neck cleanly, then dropped a flash blade into the main relay core. "Fire in 3, she muttered. 2. The explosion lit up the night. The east sector of Blood Throne went dark. Rael whooped. Rusk laughed until he coughed up blood again. Then the alarm changed pitch. They'd been spotted. Thalen watched the eastern blackout from the top of the citadel spire. The flames painted the city in orange and ash. It should have angered him. It should have made him reach for his sword. But all he felt was a gnawing ache in his chest. "She's inside the city," Malin growled from behind him. "The girl. Arden. That was her." "I know. Then why haven't you sent the Crimson Hunt?" Thalen turned, his eyes shadowed. "Because they're not dogs. They're soldiers. And sending them blind into a collapsing sector would get them all killed." Malin sneered. "Your hesitation smells like betrayal." Thalen stepped forward, close enough for the tension to snap. "You want her dead so badly, do it yourself." Malin smirked, showing his fanged teeth. "I intend to. With the hounds. Those beasts are loyal," Malin cut in. "More than you." Thalen let him walk away. He stood alone again at the edge of the tower, watching fire eat through Bloodthrone's walls. And then, he saw it, her. A glimpse through the smoke. Arden. Sprinting along a bridge, Rael at her side. She should have been dead by now. But she wasn't. And every step she took made him question the empire he'd served. Far from the city, Colt and Kalis returned to Ravenroot. Or what was left of it. Smoke curled from the tunnels. Burnt bodies lay scattered near the entrance. The hounds had found them. Kalis dragged a corpse into the open. Too late. We missed them by hours. Colt picked up a broken bowstring. Some of ours fought back. He found Alara's amulet lying cracked near the altar. But not her body. "She's alive," he muttered. "Or she was when they came." "Either way," Kalis growled, "we're not waiting. We finished the strike plan." They made contact with the remaining rebel cells across the region, wolf packs that had scattered into the wilds, old vampire defectors hiding in the shadow woods, and half-bloods who knew the Calarium's weaknesses. Colt stood before them on a broken ridge, a map spread across the rock. "We strike from 3 sides. Arden's already inside. Our job is to blow open the gate and make sure she's not alone when the tower falls." "And if we die?" someone asked. Kalis answered without blinking. "Then we die finally." The crowd roared. Arden reached the red gate just before dawn. It was the final checkpoint before Valen's throne chamber, a wall of obsidian and runes, guarded by a dozen elite knights in silver armor. Rael limped beside her, too injured to run but too stubborn to stay behind. "I can do it," Rael said, gripping a stolen blade. "Just give me a target." Arden handed her a flash stone. "You take the flank. 'Cause enough of a distraction to pull the front." Rael grinned through bloodied lips. "Loud and messy. Got it." The two of them hit the gate hard. Rael tossed the flash stone into the guard ranks and slashed through the confusion while Arden lunged through the center, ducking blades and cutting down 3 guards before they could even react. She took a spear through her arm. Didn't stop. Rael was cornered, 3 on 1. Arden turned to help, but Rael shouted, "Go. You have to finish this." More reinforcements came. Rael grabbed a second flash stone and activated it, point blank. The shockwave blasted Arden forward. She landed hard on the stone steps, blood in her mouth, the gates behind her shattered. But Rael didn't rise again. Arden forced herself up, stared at the broken door, and stepped through. Into the dark. The throne room was colder than she expected. Black marble. A single chain hanging from the ceiling. Collars stacked along the walls like trophies. Valen sat at the center. He wore no crown. He didn't need one. His presence alone was suffocating. "So," he said softly. "You made it after all." Arden didn't answer. Her blade was ready. "I offered you power once," Valen murmured. "You chose pain." "I chose freedom," she spat. "For every soul you shackled." His eyes gleamed. "Freedom is an illusion. What you call rebellion is just another cage. Then I'll shatter both." He stood. Valen stepped from the shadows beside him. Alive. Armed. Watching. Arden's hand tensed. "You going to fight me again, Captain?" Valen's gaze met hers. Then he stepped between her and Valen, and turned his sword on his king. "I'm done serving ghosts," he said. Valen's expression flickered. "You disappoint me, Valen." "You made me this way," Valen said. "She's the one who reminded me I still had a choice." Valen's calm unraveled. "Then you both die." The room erupted into violence. Arden and Thalen moved as one, old enemies now bound by purpose. Swords clashed, magic shattered stone. The collar stacks exploded as Alera's magic finally arrived, erupting through the chamber floor like fire from the deep. From the shattered walls came Kalis, Colt, and the rebel army. Blood Throne had been breached. And Valen, at last, looked mortal. Arden kicked Valen through the glass altar. The throne room trembled from the force of magic still pouring up from below. Alera's spell was destabilizing the ancient blood runes woven into the heart of Blood Throne. The entire structure groaned, like the bones of a dying god. Thalen grunted as he parried one of the Vampire King's retaliatory strikes. "He's stronger now, drinking from the city's core." "I noticed," Arden panted. Valen rose from the rubble, lips curled in amusement. "You thought killing me would be simple. I built this city from pain." He raised his hands. The collars lining the walls twitched, then flew into the air, spinning, clinking together. They formed a floating chain, a ring of restraint, like a metal storm circling the chamber. "Every soul who wore my collars is part of me now," he hissed. "You carry my brand even still." "Then let's tear it out," Thalen growled and charged. Blades clashed again. Behind them, Alera screamed. The spell took more than just energy, it was drawing her life force. Kalis tried to steady her as blood trickled from her nose. "You need to finish it," she shouted to Arden. "The forge, the main collar, it's below. That's what anchors him." Arden's gaze darted toward the shattered floor. Below the throne, the collar forge. The first collar, the original enslavement. "I'll go," Arden said, turning to Thalen. "Hold him." "Long enough," Thalen said, steel in his voice. And she leapt into the dark. The descent was endless. A spiraling shaft carved in ancient stone, crawling with spectral whispers. Arden landed hard at the bottom, bones aching, arms still torn from the gate fight, but she rose. Before her stood the forge. It wasn't made of fire or steel. It was made of memory, twisted, warped. A circular dais surrounded by flickering chains, pulsing with lives stolen. Ghosts of wolves, hybrids, witches, all bound together in a prison of magic. And in the center, a single collar. Thick. Blackened. Etched with Valen's sigil. Arden stepped forward, breath shaking. "Do not touch it," whispered a voice behind her. She spun. It was her mother. Or rather, a spectral version of Alpha Rena, young, defiant, eyes burning. "You wore this once," the ghost murmured. "You bled in it. You nearly died in it. I remember. Then why come back?" Arden didn't answer at first. "Then, because this ends with me. It ends now." The collar pulsed. She stepped onto the dais, ignoring the screaming spirits. They clawed at her mind, memories of the pit, the arena, Rael's last scream. But she kept walking. She grabbed the collar. Agony. Magic shot through her, lighting up her veins like fire. Break it, the ghost screamed. Arden didn't have a spell. She had rage. And that was enough. She poured every memory, every scream, every buried howl into her grip, and crushed the collar between her hands. It shattered. And above, the city shook. Thalen stabbed Valen through the ribs, only for the king to laugh. You cannot win, Valen rasped. I will rise again. I always do. You won't this time, Colt shouted, firing an arrow through Valen's thigh. Kayla swept in with a hammer blow to the jaw, cracking bone. Elara collapsed beside the throne, unconscious. The floor cracked. Below them, the forge exploded in a pulse of black and silver light. The chains circling the throne screamed, the energy unraveling into the air. Valen clutched his head. No, no. What did she do? Arden burst back through the floor. Her body burned. Her eyes glowed silver. She raised her hand. You die unbound, she said, and then drove her blade through his heart. This time, the vampire king didn't laugh. He howled. His body convulsed, magic spilling like blood, until the throne itself cracked beneath him. And then, at last, Valen Bloodthorn fell, ashes and dust in his own shattered empire. Arden fell to her knees, barely conscious. Thalen caught her before she hit the stone. You did it. No, she whispered, looking toward Elara's pale form. We did. Bloodthrone was collapsing. The throne tower cracked down the middle, sending rubble into the city below. The collars, now lifeless, lay in heaps. Across the streets, the last of Valen's loyal guards surrendered or fled. The rebellion had won. But the cost was everywhere. Rael's body was buried beneath the gate ruins. Kalis lost an arm. Colt walked away from the fight with blood soaking his shirt. Elara's magic had shielded him, but she still hadn't woken. She's fading, Kalis said, watching her lie in the temple ruins they now used as a safe house. Arden sat beside her. No. She'll make it. You don't believe that. Arden didn't answer. She looked out over the broken skyline. Thalen approached. His arm was in a sling, but he was alive. There's going to be chaos now. Half the vampires are already fleeing north. Let them run, Arden said. We'll need leadership, he continued. The rebellion, they'll need someone to build what comes next. Arden stood. Then build it. He frowned. You're not staying. I came to burn a throne. Not sit on one. She placed her hand on Elara's. And whispered goodbye. 2 weeks later, the gates of Bloodthrone stood open. The city, still scarred, had begun to heal. The collars were melted down. The forge was sealed forever. And in the center square, a statue had already risen. A wolf. Standing tall. Collars at its feet. Arden Vire, the plaque read. Breaker of chains. But Arden herself was gone. She rode alone through the frostbitten woods north of the ruins. Her sword was wrapped in cloth. Her wounds were healing, but slowly. Deeper scars lingered. She wasn't running. She was walking away. There were other arenas. Other pits. Other kings still clutching power with bloodied hands. She would find them. And tear them down. One by one. Behind her, Thalen watched from a ridge, silent. He didn't call her back. He only said, Go, Luna. The world needs a little fire. And Arden disappeared into the trees, free, at last, and unbound. The underground ring in Sorvain wasn't as grand as Bloodthrone, but it was crueler. Arden crouched in the rafters of the fighting pit, watching a young wolf get slammed against the cage walls. Her muzzle was bloodied, one eye swollen shut. Around her, spectators roared. Coins clinked. Magic flared. Another empire. Another audience hungry for agony. This one was run by humans, warlords with hired witches and collared shifters forced to perform for bets and spells. "Where's your sponsor?" Arden whispered into the dark. She already knew. His name was Garek Holt, a trafficker who once supplied wolves to Valen himself. Now he ran the Sorvain circuit, feeding on the broken. She dropped from the rafters without a sound and landed behind a guard. Steel slid through his throat before he could shout. One by one, she moved like shadow through the holding cages. Some wolves shrank from her, afraid. Some growled. But one, a boy, no older than 15, reached for her wrist with trembling fingers. "You're her," he breathed. "The Luna from the stories." She didn't answer. Just unlocked his cage. "Get the others out. Go south. Ask for Kalis. He'll protect you." "But, what about the fight?" She turned her gaze toward the center ring, where Garek Holt now stood, laughing over the girl's bloody body. "I'm going in." Garek Holt never saw her coming. Arden leapt the cage, landing behind him in the ring as the crowd roared, thinking it was part of the show. Then Garek turned and saw her face. The color drained from him. You're supposed to be dead? You wish." She punched him. The crowd screamed as he flew back, slamming into the cage bars. Magic users stood, readying spells, but Arden was faster. She raised her hand, and dropped a charm taken from Alara's pouch before she'd left. The spell burst, releasing a sonic wave that fried enchantments across the pit. Witches fell. Spectators ran. And the ring began to burn. Garek scrambled. "I made you. I sold your name in every circuit after Blood Throne fell. I didn't give you permission." She grabbed him by the jaw, eyes glowing silver. "Every collar that ever closed on a throat is one reason you don't deserve to die fast." He begged. He cried. She didn't care. The ring burned, and Garek Holt's reign ended in screams. Back in Blood Throne, the rebuilding continued. The statue of Arden now had offerings at its feet, flowers, tokens, folded collars. Refugees arrived by the dozens each week, seeking shelter and safety in the city that once broke them. Thalen stood atop the walls with Colt and Kalis, watching the horizon. "Rumor says she took out Sorvain's circuit," Colt said, eating an apple like it was nothing. Kalis grunted. "I heard she left the northern wastes in ashes." Thalen said nothing. "She's going to keep burning until nothing's left," Kalis muttered. "Or until someone stops her," Colt added. Thalen finally spoke. "You think she should be stopped?" Colt hesitated. "I think she's not the same woman we knew in the pit." "She never was," Thalen said. "We just didn't see it." Kalis leaned forward. "If she burns out, we'll keep going. Right?" Thalen nodded. "But if she comes back?" "We'll be here," Thalen said. "Always." Arden was bleeding. The outpost she'd stormed in the eastern wastes hadn't gone quietly. A witch set fire to the cliffside before dying. Arden had dragged herself out of the avalanche with a broken rib and frostbite creeping through her fingers. She didn't stop. Couldn't stop. She found shelter in a cave and collapsed beside the fire she barely lit. The cold gnawed at her. The magic in her bones flickered. For the first time in months, she slept. And dreamed. Of Rael. He stood in the snow, barefoot, grinning. "Still running. I'm finishing what we started." "You already did." Arden looked around. "Then why does it still feel like I'm in the cage?" Rael's smile faded. "Because you didn't forgive yourself." She wanted to scream. But she woke instead. Alone. The fire had gone out. She stood, slow and aching. No crown. No pack. No purpose, except the promise. There was one name left. One more man who sold her out all those years ago. And he wore a familiar face. Ulrich Sable. Former beta of Arden's original pack. The one who handed her over to Valen in exchange for land, gold, and status. He lived now as a merchant lord in a walled city near the southern divide, claiming to be reformed, claiming to lead a sanctuary for ex-collar wolves. Arden arrived in the dead of night. Thalen waited for her inside. Alone. "I figured you'd come here last," he said, arms crossed. "You want to talk, or just kill him?" She didn't answer. "Ulrich's dying," he added. "Has been for months. He's got a son now. A pack. People who depend on him." Arden flinched. So did I. They stared at each other. Then Thalen stepped aside. Ulrich lay in a bed of velvet and gilt. He looked older, thinner. His eyes widened when she entered. "Arden," he rasped. She said nothing. "I was young. Foolish. I thought selling you would protect the pack. You sold me for a title." He didn't argue. "I lived," she said coldly. "You don't get to die easy." "I know," he whispered. Arden didn't draw her blade. She pulled a collar from her satchel, the last one Valen ever made. And she placed it on Ulrich's chest. "You'll carry it until the end." She turned to leave. Thalen followed her into the hall. "That's it. I'm done." The rage was still in her, but quieter now. Controlled. "I don't want a throne," she said softly. "I want peace. Then come home." They walked together through the gates. For the first time, Arden didn't look back.